Welcome to a 15-minute sequence which works on our wonderful core exercise, the dead bug. We will begin laying on our backs, feet set hip distance apart, knees pointed towards the ceiling, working with Pilates style of breathing deeply into the diaphragm. So on your inhale breath, feeling that the ribcage is expanding, the lungs swelling with breath. And then on your exhale, pushing that breath out, lifting up through the pelvic floor, the diaphragm lifting to push the breath, and the abdominals wrapping around, like putting a belt around your midsection between hips and ribs. Inhale, breath, expand. Exhale, breath through the mouth if you can. Contract. Inhale, feel spaciousness between the ribs. Exhale, feel that the rib cage is knitting in towards the midline of your body. Now the next step for an effective dead bug is to also weight the low back down towards the mat, like it's heavy on your exhale. So on the inhale breath, there's a little space between low back and the mat perhaps. And now on your exhale breath, practice the low back being heavy to the mat, the pelvic floor lifting up, the rib cage knitting on. 2 more like that. Next, with your low back heavy to the mat, lift your right leg up and into the air. Now we'll take our right palm and press it against the front of our right leg. Pull against the palm with the leg and push against the leg with the palm. Try and let the low back be as heavy as you can again to the mat, the rib cage pulling into the midline, feeling the challenge of this contraction. Shin bone parallel to the ceiling on that right leg. Now, on your next inhale breath, extend the right leg away and the right arm backwards. On your exhale breath, reconnect those 2 limbs, pushing the leg into the palm into the leg, the low back down, the rib cage on. Inhale, extend them. Exhale, draw them in and connect them, contract. So the goal becomes to keep the rib cage steady and the deep core contracted against the movement of our limbs. 2 more on this side. And then let's try out the other side. Inhale, prepare. Exhale, low back is heavy to the mat, rib cage on. Left leg up. Shin bones parallel to the ceiling, left palm finds the front of your left leg. Push into the palm with the leg, push into the leg with the palm. Pull the belly button to the back of the spine, wrap your deep core around, pull your rib cage in. Once you've felt all of those contractions, then on your next inhale, extend the limbs. Exhale, connect the limbs. Inhale, extend. Exhale, connect. While the limbs are extending, see if you can stay very steady through the core. You might even want to take your right palm and just check in. What does it feel like through these points? Have I still got that pelvis tilted slightly forward, which is what that heaviness of the low back to the mat is creating? 2 more this leg. Nice work. Lower your left leg down to the ground. Let's set up for having both legs lifted into the air. So inhale, breath, prepare. Exhale, low back is heavy to the ground. Right leg lifts up, followed by the left. Inhale, pause here for a moment. Exhale, lower the legs back down, 1 at a time. Inhale here, prepare. Exhale, low back heavy to the ground. Start with the other leg leading, left leg, followed by the right. Inhale, pause. Exhale, left leg down, right leg down. So what we're feeling into is the challenge that has been created to keep that low back heavy to the mat while starting to lift more body weight into that challenge. If you're finding that the low back really wants to arch, try bringing your knees slightly further forward than your hip flexors when the legs come up into the air. And this will be important when you're establishing your initial dead bug position that you're going to work from. Last one, left leg up, right leg up, left leg down, right leg down. And then just give yourself a moment here. Soften the low back, maybe sway the legs from side to side. Let's set up for the full dead bug positioning. So exhalation breath, low back heavy to the mat, shoulders are relaxed down towards the bottom and slid underneath the chest. And then one leg at a time rises up. Let's create that intra-abdominal pressure and the pressure between both palms now onto the front of our thighs, pulling against our palms with our thighs, pushing against our thighs with our palms, low back heavy to the mat, rib cage secure and knitted on. So what I mentioned before, the knees could come further forward if you needed to keep that low back happy, with perhaps an eventual goal to say, can I have a drop down line between knees and hip flexors in this position? Now, inhale breath. Let's go with the same side of arm and leg to start again. So inhale, right arm, right leg. Exhale, reconnect them. Inhale, left arm, left leg. Exhale, connect them. Inhale, the limbs are heavy to the ground. The rib cage stays organized over the pelvis. Inhale, find that length. Exhale, contract the core, draw in. Inhale, find the length. Exhale, contract the core, draw in. So the second that you feel that low back is becoming tense, is arching from the ground, you might need to take a little bit of a rest, and that's fine as well. Let's stop that one there. Hug the knees in towards the chest, maybe a little bit of a rock from side to side into that low back. And then begins the brain gym of moving opposite arm and opposite leg. Some people it's really natural, for some it's a lot more tricky. So be kind to yourself. Let's establish now the right palm being connected to the front of the left thigh. Create that pressure. Left thigh into the palm, palm into the thigh. Left arm is up, right leg is ready to move. Inhale, extend those limbs. Exhale, draw them back to where they started. Inhale, extend those limbs. Exhale, draw back. You should feel here the challenge of the core and staying steady against the extra weight that is now moving out from the midline of your body. See if you can flow with the breath. Keep that low back heavy to the mat. Wrap the core muscles around for 3, 2, and last one. Take a mini reset if you need. Always nice just to pause for a moment. And then we check into the other side. So left palm onto the front of the right thigh. Establish that connection. Push against the palm, push against the leg. Low back heavy to the mat. Rib cage locked on. Right arm facing forward. Inhale, extend the limbs. Exhale, tuck them in. And once you've learnt these movements, there are so many ways to make them harder. Start with the basics, but as soon as we add tension or resistance into this in other ways, resistance bands, dumbbells, it's going to increase the challenge of the core and staying steady against the tension pulling away from it. Last 2, and 1 here. Hug it in, give yourself a wee moment. And we'll see if we can manage opposite arm, opposite leg, moving away from the midline. We'll also take away now that connection of palms to thighs. See if you can maintain all of those other contractions though before the limbs come out. So setting up, knees as close to a drop down line to the hip flexors as you can manage, low back heavy to the mat, rib cage knitted around, palms facing forward. Inhale, breath, right arm, left leg. Exhale, breath, draw them in. The goal is to keep inhale, breath, left arm, right leg, the limbs that aren't moving, steady. And if this is too challenging for you, if you're finding, and some people do, that the other leg just keeps moving and you end up doing something that looks a bit more like a seesawing motion, then feel free to return to the version where you had the opposite palm connected to the opposite thigh to maintain that steadiness on the limbs that are supposed to stay still. Otherwise, we'll keep this going for 4, 3, 2, and actually I have to do 2 more so that I'm even wherever you're at. You can finish on the opposite sides to where you started. And hugging the knees back into the chest, a bit of a rock from side to side. And we can take a moment just to stretch the arms up and overhead, the legs out long, breathe into your midsection. I hope you've enjoyed this video. It is designed to serve as more of a tutorial for the dead bug, but you could repeat it if it was helpful to have the instruction as a core exercise that you incorporate daily into your routines. In terms of functional core, it really is my favorite, and remembering that you can load those adaptations to make it more challenging as you progress. Thank you for joining me. Bye.